G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. We're going to go through today the Sydney Roosters best 17 for 2024. We're going through every single team throughout the off-season. We did the South Sydney Rabbitohs the other day, so if you haven't watched that episode yet, go and check it out. A special guest on that one was the great Matty the Waterboy, and he joins me once again today to talk about his second favourite side, the Red, White and Bluesters. Welcome on, Matty.
Well, if you just come from the South episode, you'll notice that I'm actually wearing a different hat to give the illusion that it's a different day and I've changed my wardrobe. But actually, through the power of technology, this is actually recorded straight after.
It's been a big 5 minutes.
It has been, yes.
Didn't want to change the shirt?
No, I only brought the one, so...
It actually made me think about when we were at Magic Round last year, one of my favourite stories of all time, which I don't think we've told before. We were in our hotel room and
I already know.
We had a collection of about 15 bloke shirts in your suitcase. And the great Timmy Williams woke up and said, oh, can I borrow a shirt for today? And Matty went, yeah, mate, good as gold. Go to my bag. Take it away.
So why did he have to borrow a shirt again?
Fuck knows.
Yeah, he only bought one shirt to Magic Round.
And he wore it on the plane.
And he spilled drinks all over it. Anyway.
Kuma's finest.
Yeah. Anyway, so Timmy, we're walking back from the footy on the Friday after the Raiders game or the Broncos game, whatever it was. And he's like, oh no, I've got beer all over my shirt. I only bought one shirt. And me and Kuru were like, we're here for 3 nights. Why'd you only bring one shirt? Anyway, I bought heaps and heaps of bloke shirts. 15 was way unders. I bought heaps and heaps and heaps of bloke shirts for giveaways for the punters at the Caxton the next day. Anyway, he's rummaging through my bag for 5 minutes and pulls out my Ralph Lauren shirt and goes, oh, this one's good. I'm pretty sure he still has it.
He still has it, yes. And left you with all just the bloke
with the bloke stuff, which I'm more than happy to wear, but it wasn't for me. That was for the people.
When he told us that he only brought one shirt with him, whenever I'm going away, I pack as if I'm going to shit myself twice.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Timmy brought one t-shirt.
Timmy brought one t-shirt.
Not even brought, he wore one t-shirt.
He wore his one t-shirt.
That was it.
I don't know what he was thinking.
Wow. I don't know how we got there, but Roosters best 17.
How did we get there?
I don't know. I think about you changing clothes or something.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my hat.
Roosters best 17. We did the Bunnies the other day. Two very, very strong squads. The Roosters are coming off an indifferent 2023, I guess you could say. Sort of the inverse of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. They started very poorly. They found form. I think they found a lot of grit towards the back end. Talk about finals footy, taking a lot out of the tank. The Roosters had to play about 8 weeks of finals footy. It's actually a miracle that they made it. I'd put the red Sharpie through them at around round 21 or so.
Yep.
They managed to win a lot of games on the run home. I think the best thing to come out of 2023 for the Chooks was in that last 8 weeks, a lot of things started to come together. Sammy Walker found confidence. Wong emerged. Terrell May turned into one of the best front rowers in rugby league. Sandon Smith came onto the scene. A lot of boxes ticked in the back end of the season for the Roosters, which once again has me sitting here in a preseason going, the Roosters should be a top 4 team.
Yeah.
But what has the last few years taught us, Matty?
Well, that you have to start well.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that the Roosters just haven't been able to do. They didn't even do it well when they won the comp. But obviously they were able to get through that because they people like Teddy and Cronk and that. But they've started slow in recent years. They started shockingly this year. And by starting, I mean, they were sitting 14th after round 20.
Yeah.
So they were sitting 14th after round 20. Then they beat the Titans and then they got pumped by Broncos. So at that point, you're just like, well, they're done. They're not going to make it. But as they've done the last couple of years in a row, they strung wings together at the end of the year, made the finals. But as you said, you have to win at the start of the year. It's just they're not going to be able to win the comp if they keep doing this.
Yeah. I think when I look back at their season as well, I mean, it finished with – I actually thought they were really unlucky the way their season finished. Melbourne got down to the last play of that game and Cam Munster just kicked across field.
They should have won.
Just won a one-on-one.
They should have won that game.
I thought they were the better team.
They should have been in a prelim.
I think they get slapped in that prelim still because it would have been week 11 of finals footy against a red-hot Bronco side.
No,
Penrith even worse.
Yeah.
But crazy that they can be 14th after round 20 and be a whisker away from a prelim.
Ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Ridiculous. And as I said in the last pod, it was kind of similar to South the year before, where South came 7th. Now, they didn't limp into the finals like the Roosters did last year, but everyone forgets that the South came 7th in 2022 because they made the prelim. It's if the Roosters ended up making that prelim last year, man, potentially we would have forgotten about the start of the year, which wouldn't be right because they had a really poor year. They're their worst year in a long, long time.
Yep, completely agree. The Roosters, couple of big signings this year. Dom Young comes into the side, heading down from Newcastle. And, of course, Spencer Leniu, who I think is a very astute signing. I really like this one for the Roosters. We'll feature both of them in our 17. At fullback, though, James Tedesco, obviously the skipper of the club, the skipper of the country and the state as it stands right now. He's had a marvellous career, James Tedesco, but I feel like the next 12 months is going to be career-defining for how James Tedesco is remembered. And that's probably wildly unfair, but I also believe it's the reality. It
is unfair, but that's just how it is. Now, let's put it out there right now. He's one of the greatest fullbacks of all time. He is arguably New South Wales' greatest ever fullback. Now, if you want to throw some other names at me, you're welcome to, but in my opinion, he's New South Wales' greatest ever fullback. He has been New South Wales' greatest player of the last decade, in my opinion. So let's not take anything away from Teddy. He was probably the best player in the NRL for a couple of years in 2018, 2019, around then. He won 5 Jack Gibson medals in a row. He had a down year last year, and he's getting older. Like, that's, Father Time is undefeated. But he was pretty poor to start the year, but he finished the year okay. Like he wasn't terrible. So I'm not just going to sit here and go, he's not a threat anymore. Teddy can bounce back for sure. He's James Tedesco. So you're right. It would be extremely unfair. And I think, take Origin in Australia away, I think he was unfairly criticised last year. He started the year poorly, but I don't know.
I think a really interesting situation with James Tedesco that quite often when guys are out of form or they're getting criticised, you think they have to do more. I just think Teddy has to do less.
And we saw that in Origin.
Yeah.
We saw that in game 1 where it seemed like people were getting in each other's way. Cleary, Teddy, were they getting in each other's way a bit? And then game 3, people love to forget this. Teddy killed it. Yeah. He had a great game. And he touched the ball, I think, 8 less times or something. I just made that number up, but it was considerably less. So that is proves your point. He had to do a little bit less, and he showed his best again.
And when you're aging and whatnot, I think that doing more is where it can get really difficult. Doing less, that's just a maturity sort of thing, which I personally think Teddy can overcome. Whether he will or not, we'll see how it plays out. I personally thought it was something that Teddy would have addressed during the season. He probably didn't address it as much as I thought he would.
No,
to be honest with you.
But it's not so he would have started last year thinking things were all normal. So at least when you're in that week to week grind, he's probably just I don't know. He's had a whole off season, a whole preseason to kind of think about that now. So I'm expecting Teddy to be way better than he was last year.
Yeah, I'm expecting the off season to be a big one for Teddy.
Yeah, and we saw even
Robbo will identify
even when he went on a holiday for a week and he got a week off. He was good after that as well.
Yeah.
So, I have no doubt Teddy will be good next year.
Teddy picks himself at 1 on the wing. I think these two pick themselves. Daniel Tupou definitely picks himself.
I believe so. Yeah.
The other wing.
Yeah.
Is interesting. Dom Young coming down from Newcastle, 25 tries last season, incredible season. You've obviously got Suaalii you could pick there as well. For me, I think Suaalii you can pick elsewhere. Dom Young, I don't think you can. So I think you have to pick Dom Young on the right wing. Would you agree with that?
I agree with everything you're saying. I wouldn't be so quick to say that Tupou picks himself. I think he does.
Wow, okay.
I think he does.
Yeah.
But I reckon it's not outrageous for him to miss out. No, I don't think it's outrageous.
I think it is. I think in his spot with what he's done there, I reckon he's a certainty to be there.
Oh, no. I reckon there's a certainty to be there as well. I just wouldn't lock him in as quickly as you did.
Interesting.
That makes me seem like I'm sitting on the fence. I'm not sitting on the fence. I'm picking Tupou. He's my winger.
Yeah.
I just don't know because we saw Sully at centre last year. That's where I'm going to pick him as well, but he didn't set the wall like there.
He's a better winger than he is centre. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. It's very interesting, but say it again, Tupou is my winger.
It's one of those rare situations where if Robbo was to have an injury in the preseason, I reckon it'd almost make things a little bit easier for him.
It's like I heard Ricky Ponting saying this the other day. It's like when you go out to do the toss, you don't know whether you should bat or bowl. It's better just to lose the toss.
Yeah, and it's out of your hands. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like Tupou, he's a Roosters legend, and he always will be. So he definitely deserves to keep his spot. It's just an interesting situation they have with three elite wingers there.
And what a problem to have to be choosing who of those guys is going to be your two wingers. Unreal spot to be in.
I wonder if Sully wasn't going to rugby, would that change anything for you?
Yeah, I think it would.
Yep.
Yeah, I question if Sully was staying if they signed Dom Young. In saying that, obviously Daniel Tupou's getting older, but they signed Marky Mark the other day as well. So that conversation only gets harder next year, I reckon.
Definitely.
Realistically.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting how it plays out. But Dom Young, a very, very good signing there. I can see him having a very long and successful career.
Oh, yeah, he's a beast. Yeah. I'm sad he's left. I mean, I'm a South fan, so I'm going to show my cards there. But I'm sad he left the Knights, not because of the Roosters. Doesn't matter where he would have gone. Yeah. I really enjoyed the Knights last year, and he was a huge part of that. So, I'm a little bit sad about that.
I think Dom Young will be an interesting talking point this year because I think he comes down from Newcastle, and I think everyone's just expecting, he's going to the Roosters, he'll get better. Tough to get better from 25 tries in a season.
He was elite last year.
He was elite, absolutely elite. And the centre inside him has got some of the best hands in rugby league, Dane Gagai. And this will, get us into our centres now. Joey Manu, a ball runner.
Exactly, yeah.
Not known for passing the football. Very rarely known for passing the football. I reckon Dom Young could have a fantastic season and go sub 20 tries here. Outside Joey Manu.
Well, I don't think that's
people
very, very
will
reasonable
for him off the back of it.
Yeah, of course.
Which will be unfair.
Of course they will.
Interesting how it plays out. Manu, we're locking him on the right centre.
Yep.
Left centre is more interesting. We mentioned Suaalii, Billy Smith played there last year. Got a couple of options, and honestly, if you said to me who's the better centre, I'd probably go with Billy Smith. But who's the out-and-out superstar that you've just got to have in your team somewhere?
He's got to be somewhere.
Got to be Suaalii, I think.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Like, if they want to win a comp this year, it's his last year for the Roosters at this point. He has to be in the team. He's ridiculously good.
I will say this. I would pick Suaalii there, but Trent Robinson is a huge Billy Smith fan. I've spoken about it before on Bloke. He uses Billy Smith as the example to all the juniors coming through the grades that, he's had the worst injury run you could just about ever have and just keeps persevering. And he uses him as an example to all the young guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if you still see Billy Smith play a fair whack of football.
I got a question for you. Putting it on the spot here. Who would be more likely? Now, we both think they're both going to play, but who do you think is more likely to miss out in round one? Suaalii or Tupou?
Who is more likely to miss out? I think Suaalii would be more likely to miss out.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
I think Robinson has a lot of respect for Daniel Tupou and what he's done.
For sure. Yeah.
And I mean, Suaalii's not going to be there the year after. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
But if you throw Billy Smith into that equation, I'd probably say Billy Smith.
Well, yeah,
in
of
a
course.
heartbeat.
Yeah.
But I also, I know Trent Robinson holds him in very, very high regard.
Yeah, and he absolutely killed it at the back end of last year.
Very well.
He ended South season, basically.
So, the Roosters, in no shock to anyone, have ended up in a position where they've probably got starting and strike players missing their team that would walk into other sides and be strike players there. So, in a very, very good spot.
Yeah.
The halves. Luke Keary, I was critical of him throughout last season. I was finding it bizarre when the Roosters were going poorly that just no one was talking about him. That shocked me a little bit. I actually thought towards the back end of the season, Sam Walker got all the attention, but I thought Luke Keary really found his feet at the back end of the year. I think he played some good footy once again.
Yeah, Keary was, again, just like the whole team, was slow to start the year. Walker wasn't even there. But yeah, by the end of it, those two were elite. Yeah. So that didn't even cross my mind to change that up at all.
Yep. Sammy Walker at 7. Off the back of last year and the way it finished, I'm so excited for Sammy Walker. And, you got to give credit to Trent Robinson because I think people forget, the season finished and Sam Walker's on fire. He's kicking field goals. He's setting up tries. He's having big games. But it was 5 weeks before that it was Drew Hutchinson that turned the season around, in my opinion.
Definitely.
He was playing incredibly well. He was holding it down at 7. And Robbo made a really big decision to take Hutcho out of the side, who I genuinely think he was the one that turned them around, and play Sam Walker, who was coming back from injury and before that was dropped anyway. Big balls decision.
For sure. And easy in hindsight to say, yeah, it was the right one. But I remember thinking at the time, no, keep Hutchison. He's killing it for him. He's winning them games. But it proved to be a masterstroke.
I was looking the other day for a Beers and Break-Evens clip from last year, and I thought it was in a certain episode, so I watched about 15 minutes, and it was me and Tim talking about Hutcho, sort of sarcastically saying, this guy deserved to get dropped this week. He's only turned this entire fucking franchise around in the last 3 weeks. And I completely backed that take then. Yeah. But Trent Robinson, we're all very quick to jump down his throat. You have to give him credit for that decision.
You can, but it's not like what you said was incorrect.
No, it's not. But could Hutcho have done what Sam Walker did at the back end of last season? I probably don't think he could have.
True.
So I have to give credit to.
Oh, it was the right call
Robbo
for sure.
For making that call. Yeah, it was a big one. Let's get into the engine room, and my God, what a room it is! It's scary reading this. We just mentioned they're going to have a few strike outside backs. They're going to miss the side. The reserve grade forward pack could play Origin. It's going to be incredible.
I want to ask you a question off the top.
Yeah.
Do the Roosters have the best middles in the comp?
I think that they have. Yes, I think they do. I think that they're 4 middles to choose from.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think now that Leniu has left Penrith, Flegler's left the Bronx.
Yep.
I think they do.
I think as well you need to consider that as far as middles, we'll talk about how it'll work in a minute, but I reckon for the last 20 minutes they probably also gained Brandon Smith as a middle too.
True.
Who I think is one of the most dominant middles in rugby league.
Yeah.
He's playing his best. So yes, it's scary and it's fantastic on paper, as it has been with the Roosters for the last few years, though it hasn't quite worked out. But this pack, JWH, Lindsay Collins, JWH, obviously the aging guy in this pack. I think he'll be a 30 to 40-minute front row forward this year, but he is the resident arsehole in this pack, and that is the role that he will play. Lindsay Collins, premier front row forward in our game. We joked before talking about Jai Arrow as a Queenslander. He is just everything. Yeah. The Queensland Origin's all about, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Did he win their Players Play, their Jack Gibson medal last year? Thoroughly deserved. He was.
Yeah, he won the Jack Gibson,
Yeah, he was fantastic. He's just one of those guys that you want in your team.
Yeah. And if you want to get an insight to the sort of person Lindsay Collins is, do yourself a favour. Go and have a listen to his speech after his Jack Gibson.
Really?
Oh, mate, unreal.
Yeah, I'll give it a listen for sure.
You sort of I think you sit there and you watch Lindsay, and even the way he looks and the way he carries himself, you sort of just think, fucking dumb front row forward. Complete opposite.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive.
And the way he apparently just goes about, he doesn't put anything in his body that's going to make him worse. He's so diligent in his preparation, which has obviously set him apart from the rest.
I remember the start of last year sitting there going through and making my way too early Origin sides. And shame on me, I genuinely forgot about him. I had him jersey 19, 20.
Well, he wasn't playing that well. Well, sorry, let me rephrase. He didn't stand out for the Roosters at the start of last year.
Yeah.
And people started to notice after he absolutely killed it in Origin. Obviously, he did get better at the end of the year as well, but, Billy Slater picked him because he was clearly playing well.
Yeah.
So he killed it all year. And he's kind of the opposite to Hargraves, which is, and it's funny because Spencer Leniu is going to replace Hargraves as the, aggressive, I'm not calling him a dickhead, but the dickhead of the team, you know what I mean?
You need a dickhead.
Yeah, exactly. The alpha, let's call it that. The alpha, dickhead's the wrong word. But then you just got Collins there who's just absolutely murdering it as well. So they're a scary, scary forward pack.
Brandon Smith at 9. I was critical of him throughout the season. I actually thought as a 9, he really improved throughout the year. I thought that obviously a couple of years ago when he won Dally M Hooker, he won it because he scored 13 tries. My argument was always that Cheese was the best hooker in rugby league when you're 5 metres out. The other 95 metres, I didn't have him in the top 6 or 7 hookers in rugby league. The back end of the season, I saw a lot of things in Brandon Smith's game that I didn't think he was capable of. He really impressed me at 9 towards the back end of the season.
He was elite at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's changed my opinion on him.
Yeah, absolutely. It was disappointing that he missed out on that Kiwis because he got injured.
He got injured, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously.
One of the 19 Kiwi hookers that got injured.
Yeah, yeah. He is another scary, scary part of this pack. Yeah.
Let's have a look at the back row. Very, very interesting. So many options here. Nat Butcher started last year or two. I think he's very likely to start there, but I think there's so much talent in the back row here. A lot of people talk about Nat Butcher like he's safe and he's solidified there. I don't think he is. I really don't. I think Nat's as good edge as he is middle. And I think there's other guys in this squad that are such better edges than they are middles that it wouldn't surprise me to see Nat move to the middle at some point. How safe do you think he is?
Nah, I'm not exactly with you there. I think he's been safe. Safe's a funny word because it insinuates that they're an average player. Don't you reckon? Like they're okay, but they don't make any mistakes, but they're all right.
So when I say safe, I just mean his position in the side as an edge player.
Oh, that. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. He's got upside to him, but I think that his position in the side, I think a lot of people just assume he'll be there, he'll play 80 minutes the entire season. I'm not as convinced his position is that safe. A spot in the 17, safe as houses.
Yep.
But him locking down an edge spot there, I'm not convinced that is as safe as what people think.
Who would your ideal back rollers be then?
Ideally, and I'm probably biased, but I think Wong just has the most potential in the world.
Yep.
I think he could absolutely blow it away. I think he will this year. I think Wong will be an 80-minute back rower. And if you could give me Nat Butcher at his best, which is probably what we saw last year, or you can give me Angus Crichton at his best, I'm taking Angus Crichton every day of the week. Are we going to get that from Angus?
Yeah.
Fuck knows.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Satili Tupanua's got more upside than Nat Butcher. But without using that word again, Nat Butcher 10 times more safe than Satili Tupanua. So I would probably have Nat Butcher over Satili, but I would have a red-hot firing Angus Crichton over Nat Butcher.
Well, in a perfect world, you'd have Angus Crichton his absolute best. But going off the past year, Angus was a little bit down on form.
Yep.
Nat was awesome. Nat's been awesome for a couple of years now. Obviously, Satili and Angus, I think it was the year before.
Yep.
Absolutely killed it. But based off last year, I'm starting with Nat and Wong as my back rollers.
I think Satili as well. I think he's got a lot of errors in his game. There's upside to him. There's no doubt about that. I think it's worth noting as well. I think last year was his return from an ACL injury.
Yeah, it was.
So history tells us that the 12 months post ACL.
Oh yeah.
Tends to be a little bit of a fall down. So it'll be interesting to see how Satili picks up again this year. But yeah, I do think for round one, the edges will be Wong and Nat Butcher. And, if Angus is going to start on one of them, he probably does replace Wong before he replaces Nat Butcher. But I'm not totally convinced that that's how it'll play out throughout the entire year. But Wong's going to be my big breakout star next year. And it's probably... He probably kind of ruined that because of how well he did in the finals.
Yeah.
I think people have now realised how good this guy is. And it'll sound over the top and everything, but I think he could be the closest thing we've seen to Sonny Bill. I think he's got that sort of ability.
Wow.
In the way that he plays. So, which I've been saying for a while.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer in Wong, and I think Robinson will... I think it was very evident towards the back end of last year when the biggest games of the season came, finals footy and whatnot, and you could tell that Robbo was relying on Wong, Terrell May. And I think that's very telling heading into this season.
He's a local junior, isn't he, Wong?
Local junior by Bondi standards.
I think so.
Went to Scots from New Zealand, yeah. New Zealand Bondi.
Yeah, just like how Angus Crichton's a local junior.
Yes, a couple of local juniors there.
Nah, good get. You're right. He's obviously, you've seen him a million times more than I have, but just based on what everyone saw at the back end of last year, My God, he is incredible.
Yeah, he's going to be a handful.
I'm pumped to see him this year.
We've spoken about a couple of guys that are under a bit of pressure coming into this season. I wouldn't so much say that Radley's under pressure, but I think that Radley would be putting a lot of pressure on himself coming into this year. It wasn't that long ago Radley was, and people, as you say, people love to forget things in rugby league. It was not that long ago he was the best 13 in rugby league. He'd won 2 comps in a row, and he was just on top of the world, Rads, and he was probably my favourite player to watch in the competition at that point. And even myself, he's one of my favourite players, and I'm finding it very, very tough to get around Victor Radley over the last couple of years because of, let's not tiptoe around it, bonehead decisions. That are so many that have happened over the last few years. I think his ball playing has dropped off a little bit. And I think that he's so important to the way that Trent Robinson structures his footy and the way that the Chooks play that when he's not there, it's just too fucking costly for them. And then they get used to footy without Radley for a couple of weeks. And then he comes back in and then it changes again. Rads just needs to play 80% of this season.
Yeah.
They just can't afford to not have him on the field.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And I think Robinson needs to have that chat and take that on board that, mate, we love the big hits. We love all that, but you're too important to not be on the field. We build too much around you.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. And I think he played a fair few games last year. Yep. So I think from listening to, and I don't know anything. I don't know Victor Radley well at all. And I've met Trent Robinson once. I'm just going off what I hear in interviews, but I remember listening to Victor Radley speak on Triple M about how he was so nervous about making a stupid decision that then he stopped coming out of his shell. And then Trent Robinson then pulled him aside and said, no, we need you to come out of your shell. So I think Victor is he understands, from what I'm hearing, he understands that, call them bonehead decisions, occur. Yep. I think what he's struggling with is finding a happy medium. And I think he very much improved on that last year, but absolutely needs to improve on it more this year because we want to see the aggression, but we don't want to see ill discipline, put it that way.
I think the other thing that Rads has really struggled with that I think is a factor that a lot of people overlook is that when he was on top of the world as a 13, Cooper Cronk was the maestro on that side. They played to a very certain structure. Since then, he's gone through a guy like Kyle Flanagan into a guy like Sam Walker who, I'm not being harsh on those two. They're not Cooper Cronk, nor should they fucking be in the very early parts of their career. But the Roosters, I think it has been very evident that they've lacked a lot of structure over the last few years. And I think the reality is that if Sam Walker's going to be a 7, I love Sam Walker, but he's an unstructured footballer. Yep. He's a walker.
Yeah.
They're unstructured. They play off the cuff. They do their own thing. And I think Radley has really struggled to find his place in that. So, yeah, I think interesting couple of years for Rads because a couple of years ago I was sitting there going, Radley, he will never leave the Sydney Roosters. He will be the captain one day. It'll be him and Cam Murray as the Roosters and Rabbitohs captains going head-to-head. And, I think another 1 or 2 seasons like the previous few that he's had, Radley, and I'm not sure if he is a Rooster forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Based on what we've seen in the last few years.
Yeah. Because, you would have said that after the 2019 grand final, for sure you would have said that. But then in 2020, he does his ACL. Obviously, that's not his fault at all.
Yep.
But then as he's, then in the next year when you start thinking about Origin, I think he got like a 4-week suspension for something silly, and then he got suspended again. I know he's not available for Origin. That's when he was available for Origin. And he had kind of 3 years of that not on the field for more than 4 weeks type situation. Yeah. You might be right.
Yeah. And I think that, a lot of the things that Radley gets in trouble for, I think a lot of people sit at home and go, the game's soft, blah, blah. Sure, but Radley knows what the rules are. You know what you can do, you know what you can't do, and you need to adapt. And if the Roosters are going to be successful, they need Rads to adapt.
Yeah.
And I'm probably harsh on him because I just know how talented he is and how important he is to one of the best sides in the league. Big season coming up for Radley.
Huge
Because as we're going to go through now, their bench, they're not short on middle forwards.
No.
There's a lot of options there, a lot of guys, and Radley is genuinely, I think, the best forward in that. The most suited forward to the 13 jersey.
Oh, without a doubt.
But he just needs to stay on there. And I'll tell you what, if they make a decision over the next few years, and this is what I think could really trouble Radley, is that if he doesn't get all this sorted, I personally think Wong's best position could be 13.
Really?
Eventually, yeah.
Okay.
So I think that'll be an interesting one to watch there. But I'm really hoping he plays out his entire career at the Roosters. He's club captain one day.
He's a Rooster.
He's a Rooster. He's a Clovelly crocodile who's come all the way. It's a great story.
Yeah.
Rads just needs to get it sorted. And he's still young. I think because he won those comps, we think, he's old. Like, I think Rads is 25.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
he's
insane.
something like that,
It's
yeah.
honestly unbelievable. Big season for Radley. Let's get to the bench. Jersey 14. I thought Sandon Smith was incredible last year. I thought he was another guy, along with Drew Hutchison, that really helped turn their season around. Came up with some huge moments. That Cronulla game, some massive moments there. I think he put Lindsay Collins over for a try.
Wasn't that the Storm game?
Was it the Storm
I think
game?
it was a Storm
Game?
Sure. It was one of the games.
One of the finals
One
games.
of the finals games, yeah.
His impact was huge. I remember there being a couple of games they didn't win without Sandon Smith.
Yeah.
And what he did. But Connor Watson also returns from injury. We caught up with Connor a couple of weeks ago. Legend of a fella.
He's the best.
Terrible looking, but legend of a fella. And Connor, it sounds to me like he's probably the front runner to be the 14, and with his experience, he probably should be. But I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever that Connor Watson would have sat in the stands last year going, shit.
Oh,
I've got
yeah.
a battle on my hands here.
For sure. For sure.
Because Smith was incredible. And, I would argue I would rather have Smith in my halves than Connor Watson. So if you're looking for a utility guy, potentially Smith could offer a little bit more. But Watson has the runs on the board and has the ability.
Yeah.
Just needs good injury.
Yeah, we know how good he is.
Yeah.
Watson's definitely my utility, 100%. I think he's been quite forgotten, actually, because no fault of his own. He copped a terrible injury last year. Was it a broken patella?
Yeah, it was January, I think it was like January 5 during the Sydney test.
Oh, shit.
Remember everyone was walking to the SCG and he was over that bridge. They were training under it when he did it. And they couldn't cover him up quick enough. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Awful.
That was a terrible injury. But I honestly think out of sight, out of mind, people have just kind of forgotten about him. But let's not forget how good he was. He was I know Knights didn't make the finals in his last year, but he was easily the best player in his last year at Newcastle. Like he's fantastic. And
I look at Connor and I think the best thing about him is his running game. If he comes on to play 9 behind this pack, shut the gate.
Good luck.
Shut the gate. It could go off there. So Watson, he's our 14. Other guys on the bench, I think, if you got Wong that's starting, Angus Crichton, I think he has to take a bench spot.
Yeah.
The caliber of footballer that he is, if he's not at his best, if he's at 50% of his best, I'm having him on my bench.
Yeah.
Angus in there, can play as a middle, can play edge if need be. I think Terrell May, we said before, I'm really big on him coming into this year. I think a lot of the attention is going to be on Spencer Leniu. If I'm Robbo, the way that Terrell May played during the finals last year, he was not only was the Roosters' best forward, I thought in the last 6 weeks in the comp, he was arguably the best front row forward in rugby.
He was.
He was incredible. So
he was ridiculous.
Terrell May, I would have him as a certainty in my side. I actually picked him in my Supercoach side the other day, and he's a bit of an odd Supercoach player because it's not so much about how many minutes he plays, it's just the impact he has in minutes.
Yeah.
Tackle breaking, offloading, and I mentioned him in my team, and I sort of thought, people are going to love this. This is a good pick. The amount of people that were like, he won't be in the side. He won't be in the 17. I'm sitting there going...
I didn't even he was just one of those names that were just in for me.
He's an automatic.
He's an absolute automatic
automatic.
selection. Yeah. He played most games no, he didn't. He missed a bit of the middle of the season. But he played I don't know, how many games did he play? 17 games last year. In 13 of those games, he didn't miss a tackle.
If he is not in the best 17 come round one, it's not because of football. There has to be something more to it.
Yeah. On football,
it just makes no sense.
Yeah, he'll be there.
He's an incredible footballer. I would put all the money on him playing there round one.
I actually met him. Dan did a podcast with him. I don't know if it'll be out by then. It might have been out by now, but what a guy.
How big is he? Is he enormous?
He's so he's not tall,
yeah,
but he's just an imposing figure.
Yeah.
Great bloke and just killed it last year. Just was one of the best players in the comp. So
he's got the way that he moves and the way that he offloads and breaks tackles. He's got a bit of Andrew Fafita to him. Where he sort of reminds me of. So yeah, I really like him. Very Supercoach friendly guy in particular. He's a guy that I'll be looking at on draft day. Brace yourself, boys. So we've got Terrell May. We've got...
Hang on, sorry, how's this? So
Yeah.
in his first, it just shows how good his finish of the season was. So this is a random stat, right? But let's call it tackle breaks. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games,
Yep.
he had 5 tackle breaks.
Yep.
Altogether.
He would have averaged 5 in the last few weeks.
Yeah. So his last 6 weeks, he went 3 tackle breaks, 5, 4, 1, 5, 6.
Yeah.
He finished the year with a bang. He will be there next year for sure.
And that was against the best teams
Yep.
in the biggest games.
Yep.
Bright light stuff.
Ridiculous.
He'll be there. That leaves us with essentially one more bench spot. And we haven't mentioned Egan Butcher yet.
Yeah.
But we've got Spencer Leniu
That's the thing.
right
Yeah.
in the club who has to be there.
He locks himself into it, yeah.
I think he locks himself in there, and I think Spencer maybe he can over the next few years adapt and grow to be a starting front row forward, but I would have him as my bench guy still.
For sure.
I think having a momentum man coming off your bench is so important in the modern game, and this was my argument with Brandon Smith at the start of last year. You got one of the best momentum guys in rugby league. You're playing him at 9. I would have played someone else there. Brandon Smith's obviously developed quite a bit, but mate, if I'm playing the Roosters, I have to deal with Cheese and JWH for the first 25 minutes. And then with most teams, it gets easier. I think it gets harder. Terrell May and Spencer Leniu walk on the field.
It's crazy.
And Angus Crichton, a former Kangaroos back rower, comes on as well. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. As we said at the top of the show, they, in my opinion anyway, they have the best middle in the NRL. It's gonna be a nightmare for teams. And I just think he's the perfect heir for Hargreaves.
Yeah.
Like Hargreaves has a year left. Like he'll eventually want to be a starting front row, but for now, what impact he's going to have off the bench?
Yeah, it's
so
going to be incredible. So that's sort of our Roosters 17 as far as other guys in the squad.
Just before any chance of having Egan in that bench over Angus Crichton for you?
No. Oh, I mean, without knowing where Angus is at and what's going on there, it's really tough with Egan. I rate him very highly, but he's not an edge, and that's where they've been using him.
He's a middle.
He's a middle. So if you're going to use him as a middle, sure. But mate, I just don't know how they can leave Angus Crichton out of the side. It's brutal on Egan. Mate, the name Satili Tupanua hasn't even fucking come.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
And he just re-signed for 2 years, so he's obviously in the plans. I didn't think he would re-sign. I thought they had so many back row stocks that he would, probably off the back of injury and stuff, he'd be the unlucky guy, but they have re-signed him. Maybe it's a sign that Angus could be looking elsewhere over the next couple of years. I'm not too sure. But at the moment, I don't have Satili, Egan Butcher in my best 17.
Yeah, me too. But
which is brutal, but...
But can I see Egan not making it? That's the thing. I know I'm contradicting myself here. It's
okay. Well, if it almost sounds like you're leaning towards playing Angus over Egan.
Other way around.
Other way around, yeah. You are you?
Well, I can't drop Angus Crichton. It's so hard.
It's hard if you take away the names and the resumes and you just use stats from last year. You're probably going Egan.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Well, once again, I think a lot of it comes down to where Angus Crichton's at.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously last year had some dramas and whatnot. But was obviously like there was fears at the start of last year that he wasn't going to play.
Yeah.
But he was back on the field and started to sort of find his way back. So with another preseason under his belt, I do think it'll be Angus. But yeah, I think the Roosters divide their reserve grade between Bears and Roosters. So I think Satili's plays with the Bears. I think he played there last year. Interested where Egan ends up, but depth.
Oh, plenty of depth.
So important.
Well, in the forwards anyway.
So important. Well, mate, even in the backs, realistically.
Yeah.
Like, Billy Smith isn't making the side.
Yeah.
Palga was very good last year as well, who's another guy. So the Roosters are looking very, very strong heading into 2024, and we've sat here on paper the last few years and praised the Roosters. They've just got to put it together though, don't they?
Yeah. And they got to put it together at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Not just at the end.
So guys that have missed that side, at the moment we've got Satili, probably got Egan Butcher. Zach Docker-Clay still in the squad as well, one of the greats just hanging on there, which is great to see. White, who re-signed the other day as well, looks like a little powerhouse as well.
Yep.
When I watch him, I see something there But if Egan and Satilli can't get into that side, I don't know where he fits as well. I don't know how much we'll see of him. Tyler Moriarty's also there as well. And, like, obviously they've got a couple of hookers there, but he's one that I've watched come through SG Ball and all that. He's very talented too, Moriarty. So, once again, he's probably the fifth string hooker in that side, but he's in the top 30 for a reason. Give me a bracket for the Roosters. Give me a 4-space bracket.
I am going to say 4 to 8.
4 to 8?
Yeah.
Do you see their high-end potential being a top 4 side?
I reckon that we've said that Roosters are a good team on paper for 4 years and they haven't shown it.
Yeah.
And am I willing to bet on that again? Yeah. But I just think the Panthers and the Broncos, let's say third. But you know what? No, I don't think they're going to come third. I just think they haven't shown enough consistency for me over the last 4 years. They've got the team on paper, but they just haven't shown it for me. And they're still in my finals.
Yeah.
But if they put it all together, sure, they can come first. But I don't think they will.
I'm going to back into be a 3 to 7 side.
Okay.
For the third year in a row.
Yep.
When they have it. But I'm back again. Double dipping.
I also hate the Roosters, so.
What gave it away? How good. Anything else on the Chooks, mate?
Scary team.
Scary team.
If they can pull it together, they can literally win the premiership.
Yeah, they're a team you do not want to play come finals time.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Probably the last person I want to touch on, mate, that I think it's a big year for is Trent Robinson.
Yeah. Yep.
If it doesn't gel again this year, questions have to be asked.
And he's signed for a long time.
Yep.
I think till 2027 or 2028.
And the reality of the Roosters is that they are not in the top 8 business.
No.
They're not in the top 4 business. They're in the premierships business. And if they're not winning comps, things have to change. And, it might not sound like long for most sides, but we're coming up to 5 years without a premiership.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
by Rooster standards is unacceptable.
I like that they've brought in Holbrook as an assistant.
Yes.
Look, people want to say, he didn't do much of the Titans. I think he did a lot for the Titans. He obviously won a comp for St. Helens in Super League. I think he'll be great for him too.
I think he got the rough end of the stick up there.
Absolutely. I think. Look, for Holbrook, getting replaced by Des Hasler, I think that's a win for the club.
Yep.
But I don't necessarily think he did it. I think he did a good job.
Yeah, so do I.
And I think he deserved more time. But if I'm the Titans, I'm like, well, if I can get Des Hasler, I'm going to take him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Roosters 2024, one of the more interesting sides to keep an eye on. A team that could win the comp or a team that, once again, could disappoint us, but not a side you're going to look forward to coming up.
Not at all.
Week to week.
Not at all.
Another side heading to Vegas as well, so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts them, especially on that thinner field and whatnot that we spoke about last week. Doesn't quite suit the likes of Sammy Walker and whatnot. Definitely suits that forward pack though.
Oh, yeah, it does.
That's going
to be a clash. Oh, wow. That's a way better game than South Manly. That's elite. Yeah.
That's going to be wild. All right, guys, thanks for joining us once again. Like, comment, subscribe, podcast, YouTube, wherever you may be. And we'll be back in a couple of days with another Best 17 for 2024.